That should literally be the motto of life. Everything's terrible, but there's more ice cream.
Hello and welcome to the Part-Time Gamers, the gaming podcast for people with full-time lives. I'm Cernex, clocking in with my good friends 9 of 12.
Hey, Mark Save from Microsoft 364.
And that one weirdo.
You took my line. I was going to make that joke, but I have another. But I have another one. How do you wake up Lady Gaga?
Poke her in the
You
face.
poke her face.
Yep.
Yeah. Ah! That's it. Good night, Tokyo.
Apparently we have conspired to eliminate one of our co-hosts today. I apologize.
Now we're going to
Alright.
talk about the time somebody kicked my puppy too, aren't we?
Only a little bit. Only a little bit. Just enough to make you
Worried
cry.
about you during the outage, Sean. I was like, oh no.
What's that?
The lasers. I was worried the lasers would get you at work if
Oh.
when everything went down.
No, unfortunately, the shop that I worked at was not affected at all. Yay.
Well, the laser's not working right and lasering you.
Yeah. No, that's gonna,
Skynet initiative enabled.
Yeah, that's going to be when Skynet takes over. It's like it starts off with I'm telling you, first shots of Skynet. It's going to start with minor inconveniences, and then it's all of a sudden just like lasers and saw blades are going to come in at people out of nowhere. I'm telling you, that's how it's going to happen. Sure.
Matthew takes a sip of wine.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our icebreaker,
Nice of you to drop by.
Never heard that one before.
which I picked in a panic about 3 minutes before we started the show. So I'm pretty sure we've talked about something similar to this, but I think this is a good take on it. What is your superpower? Now, I'm sure we've talked about like what kind of superpower would you like to have, but I don't think we've talked about what kind of superpower we think we actually have.
Detect discount velvet.
That is very specific.
That's the 80s. It just, it is. It just, I go in a store and I'm just like, my velvet sense goes off. I don't know. I just like, and we'll like walk back, like, and find it, and it's there
Yeah.
often.
It's
use it
crazy
less
how
these
you
days.
had that answer just ready to go, one in the chamber. It was like me and when we had the question about like, well, which animated character would you? And I was like, Jessica Rabbit.
True.
And you guys were like, oh, you knew
You thought
the
about this.
answer. Even
Probably too
before
much.
I was supposed to think. Yeah, I thought about it even before I was supposed to think about it. You know what I mean?
So I have two that I'm pretty sure that I have. One is the ability to walk into a conversation at the most awkward point in time. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that on the show before. It's like I'll just walk into a room and two people are having a conversation that is complete. I'm sure it's completely benign, it's mundane, but I happen to come into like when someone's mentioning about taking their pants off or something like that. And it's like the most like awkward, out of context point of conversation.
Oh,
That's when I will walk in.
you buff up your sense of humor and
Yeah.
use that to your advantage.
Oh,
Basically.
yeah. And then my second one is, I guess, like uncontrollable inadvertent invisibility. Oh, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on the show as well, where it's like I was like, there's just times where people just don't know I'm there somehow. And I'm a 6 foot tall dude, not exactly light on my feet necessarily. And I still like sneak up on people all the time. There's one time when I was in a room with my friends, two friends to my right, one to my left, something like that. One of my friends was looking at us and somehow just missed my existence in that room, despite me not hiding behind anyone. So, and this has happened
Like,
like
when'd you
multiple
get here?
times. Yeah, exactly.
Half an hour into the conversation.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Joke's on you. You're in a parallel universe.
Yeah. So that's what the ones that I know I have.
Well, you have immunity to caffeine apparently, but
Well, that too.
There
That's
you
not.
go.
That's not a superpower. That is a curse. Uh, because I
It is.
It
I
could be
can't
a
picture that.
superpower at the levels you ingest it. Because I'll
That-
tell you,
well, like even today, I've had 2 cups of coffee and 2 monsters so far.
And you're probably still nodding off.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like that's the thing is like I there are not an insignificant number of times where I have drank 3 to 4 monsters in a single work day and has still nearly fallen asleep standing up in front of my machine.
why don't you do that, right?
It's like meanwhile my dad drinks like 2 Pepsi, like regular Pepsis in a day, and he's like shaking.
God.
Ugh.
I miss those days with caffeine actually, where it was like, oh, well, that's why I drink that new Celsius
Yeah.
Essentials, whatever it's called. But it's that big can, and it's 275 milligrams of caffeine, and then there's other things in it too. And I swear, somebody should have honestly put that on a street corner because they would have made far more than they're making more in the store.
Yeah,
Because that
probably.
stuff is literally like I can hear my hair grow. Like it's strong and it's very effective. The only thing like just about any caffeinated or most caffeinated beverages, I have to sit there and plan my day around drinking it or drinking the whole thing before I start my day, so I'm close to a bathroom.
Monster
my
is like
cheekbones
that.
will sink in.
Monster goes straight through me.
Yeah.
Like if we're on a road trip, that's when I want it. I want it for a road trip, but it's like, yeah, but we're gonna have to like
Plan
stop
this-
to pee
yeah.
if we do that. So
I don't know.
have it later. What about you, Theo? What about your?
Yeah, you haven't mentioned one.
I'd say telling bad jokes, but I didn't even get to do that tonight. I don't know. I guess I mean I don't know. I can't think of anything that stands out, especially when I'm kind of at a point these days where everything's just there. So I just don't think in that rationale. I guess the 2 biggest things that stands out is memorizing movies, especially in the case of like bad movies for some ungodly reason. It's weird because it's like like Pulp Fiction, Goodfellas, movies that are near and dear to my heart. Absolutely. But I was watching so on 2 channels that I like on YouTube, they did things recently for Battlefield Earth, which is easily one of the worst movies. That movie is so bad that it's the worst movie in the next 50 years of filmmaking that hasn't happened yet. It's that damn bad. And just for a goof, and I did this before with Madam Web, and I got punched in the face by the screen because it was like, this movie's terrible and you're an idiot. So I watched Battlefield Earth again, and they wanted me to pay like $1.99 to rent it. I'm like, that's still too much. But I watched it.
They should be
and
paying you to watch it.
Oh God, yes. And I remember, so believe it or not, at the time, because this was about 6 years after Travolta's resurgence, so he was still kind of high on that because he had Get Shorty and he had Face Off, so he was still writing that out pretty well. And then he decided to make this book, and I've actually read the book. It was published in 1982 from L. Ron Hubbard. For those who may not know who he is, he created Scientology, which the last time I checked has nothing to do with science.
Yeah, I remember those infomercials.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh,
But I've actually read the book, and I have to say, I did not know there was such thing as medicinal heroin for book writing, but L. Ron Hubbard must have found a way to do it because the book is bananas. It's worth reading just to be able to go, somebody thought of this and they didn't lock him in a sanitarium. That's pretty awesome. But I decided to watch Battlefield Earth, and I think I've seen it twice at the most. Like I have not. I was never a fan of it. I literally was like, oh my God, this movie cost $70 million. It was actually the director, Roger Christensen, actually made some good movies, and he was a part of like ILM for like a while. So it was like, yeah, you've got street cred until you made this.
Yeah, past
And,
tense used to have street cred.
Yeah. Well, then again, George did too, but I've seen Attack of the Clones, so. But I actually memorized lines from that movie, and all I could think to myself is, how? Like, I mean, I studied 5 years of Japanese. I can ask to go to the bathroom and if I can borrow a pen. I've seen that movie twice, and I'm like, oh yeah, that line. And I'm sitting there repeating it, and I'm like, do I honestly just have bad taste in movies and I try to cover it up and be pretentious by like, of course I like The Godfather. That would be one thing. Memorizing movie lines. And I think the other thing, as far as like a superpower, is especially with cats, dogs too. I seem to have like Dr. Dolittle ability.
Yeah.
Like for some reason. So this was 7-8 years back, but who I was with at the time, she had a dog named Nina. Nina was known to be kind of aggressive, or at least kind of snippy with the family, and basically the dog had anxiety issues, which, yes, it happens, living creature. And I remember when we were going to get the dog back from her ex, and she was like, oh no, this dog's going to hate you, and if she snips at you and yada 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 and all that. And I literally, it was the weirdest thing in the world. She brings Nina in, and I'm sitting there, and she comes right up to me, and she puts her head on my knee. And she looks up at me, and I'm like, yeah, I got anxiety too. I think we're going to get along.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll put some edibles in the pancakes. Like, we're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. And it will be blueberry pancakes, of course, unless you want banana. And it's the same thing with Stephen Boom, over years, because I remember when me and my current girlfriend, it's not even current girlfriend, it's like 5 years. She's like, what do they call them now? Domestic partners? I was like, well, I thought that's what Cagney and Lacey was, but okay. It sounds like a cop thing, domestic partner. But I remember first meeting them, the cats, and she was like, well, they're real particular. And they both came up to me, and it was like, I don't know, it was like this weird Ace Ventura thing. It's like they seem to like me. And I'm very grateful because I feel like sometimes, because animals have like very particular, if not peculiar, senses, and I feel like I would be one to set off their spider sense, their radar, and I don't. Like, they actually seem to gravitate to me. Like when we moved in together 4 years ago, my girlfriend was like, you do realize that the cats are coming with us? And I was like, how was that even an option? I said, I'm just gonna let you in a little secret. There are going to be days, maybe several, where I might like the cats better than I like hanging out with you. So, and I said, that'll be vice versa. So it's going to be great. So we're still, we're still together. Me and the cats. Yeah, I got a Dr. Dolittle thing. Not the Dolittle with RDJ and his terrible accent. Yeah, talk about bad movie I probably memorized lines for. Yeah, I think that's about it. These days, I kind of look at myself and I'm like, what do? I waste oxygen. All right, go to bed.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean,
you're right. I waste atmosphere.
I was going to say you waste more than oxygen. I mean, there's also water and food and stuff like that too. So,
Jeez.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
To be fair, I started going through spats where I don't eat for like a couple of days, so I'm not wasting that much food anymore.
Good to hear.
Now, Skittles. Yeah, I'm tearing some Skittles down.
Wow, I'm a terrible person. I apologize to everyone.
Don't own it. It's okay.
It's all about understanding who I'm talking to. And I know you're the kind of person who could take it. You're the kind of person who accepts this kind of sarcasm. That's the only reason why I would go that far.
Exactly. Remember one fundamental thing that I think is missing in this world, not to get off on a tangent, but people not having a sense of humor about themselves. And of course, not everything's meant to be a joke, but when we do silly things, like I sat there, perfect example was the Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I don't need 2 things of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, but it was buy one, get one free. And I'm standing in front of it and I'm like, yeah, I don't need all that ice cream. I don't, pistachio. And, I sit there and I con myself into thinking I'm not going to do these things, but I do them anyway. And part of that is the ability to accept who you are and how you operate.
Yeah.
And having a sense of humor about that is so vitally important, especially in this day and age, because there's very little to laugh at except the fact that, Nickelback has platinum albums. Well, actually, that's more like crying, not laughing. But having said that, no, within the context of like us and me, oh, yeah, bring it on. Like, that stuff's delicious to me.
Sure. I just get squicked by negative self-talk. So
I understand.
that's my thing.
I know, and that, like I said, it's because of the context of what we were talking about and everything. I know I obviously do not actually think that way. Just to be clear. All right. Anyways, before I dig myself any further into this
Theo's
hole,
a waste of space at all. But I also don't think it's okay for Thea to think that.
yeah, that is.
I
true.
was winking, by the way. That wasn't a stroke.
All right. Before we go any darker than we already are, let's go ahead and get into our watercolor talk.
You get that thing I sent you?
And for those listening and not watching the stream, I nearly made Theo launch whatever he's drink all over his computer. Somehow. So close.
It's weird when I try to give other spit takes and it doesn't work, and then just all of a sudden randomly it's like
Yeah. All right, September, what did you bring for us?
Story about unions.
Yeah.
I think we need this in the gaming industry, and this struck me. I was so excited I had to bring it. So the workers at Bethesda Game Studios had joined CWA, Communication Workers of America, and they say they're the first Microsoft video game studio to form a wall-to-wall union. A whole 241 workers have either signed the authorization card or indicated they wanted to join a union through an online portal. So I was really excited about this. I mean, obviously with all layoffs and such, more than ever, right? We need unionization. But this is something really close to my heart. And Bethesda's doing something kind of stretching it out across the artists and the engineers and the programmers and designers. Up until now, the biggest group of unionized game industry workers was Activision, actually, because all their quality control people unionized. And for the longest time, like, unions were in decline, and people have these ideas that they're fine, and especially white collar workers were duped into thinking, oh, you don't need to be protected. Like, this is white collar work, and oh, look, you have these benefits, and we'll treat you good. And I was part of trying to organize a union at a place I worked many years ago, and the same union, actually, CWA. But they were like, oh, don't do that. Look at this catalog. Like, they would give us, points for showing up for work and behaving, basically, and then you could spend them on whatever trash in the catalog with their logo on it. Like this was a great benefit you get from us. And I mean, the quality of workplace and work-life environment, I mean, outside of worker protection laws, unions do so much to lift everybody up and protect workers, and we do need it more and more. I mean, bit by bit, for decades, companies have been taking away things like, find a job with a pension anymore, right?
Yeah.
401ks we've run into. It's just, until they tell you, okay, well, it's time for you to move along and you have to live off it, so your contribution didn't amount to anything. I mean, getting these kind of benefits and protections for workers is really important, and this is an industry we care about, and this is something that can be done about it. They will have to, if these union contracts exist, look more carefully at their hiring practices and not treating workers as disposable.
Yeah.
hire a bunch when you're building something and then let them all go when you're not. No. And that'll, in my view, I mean, I feel like that's going to improve just like it does with other products. It'll improve the quality of the products because
Yeah.
you've got teams that have been working together, that know how to work together, that will build it out so it's expandable. Yeah, unions. I'm very pro-union, in case you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But yeah,
There's-
so this is exciting,
Yeah.
and I want to see more of it. And this could staunch some of the bleeding we've seen in the industry.
Yeah, just the hemorrhaging of workers and everything with all the layoffs. I mean, this is again kind of a tangent from the from union talk. This is one of the reasons why I'm liking a lot of independent studios that are not beholden to shareholders, and they can just focus so much more on making a great game. Like one that's been coming up a little bit recently has been Hello Games with No Man's Sky. And they just released another really big update to No Man's Sky. And I mean, that is No Man's Sky is seriously one of the like exceptions to all of the stories in video game history, because they start off bad, and most games that start off bad never really get good. They always are kind of mired by that initial start. And just by releasing a crap ton of free content, stuff that many other companies, probably like a lot of AAA studios, would charge people for as DLCs, they've just done as free updates to the game. And they've added so much to that game. And I've recently found out that there's only like less than 50 people in that company total.
Wow.
Really small.
Yeah.
That started out as like 4 guys.
Yeah.
And then it was like 12. And that's different in a small shop, right?
Yeah.
And that keeping a small team, though, does speak to the same point.
Yeah.
Like a small dedicated team can deliver better quality because you're not suffering from middle management syndrome and people asking for things and they don't know what they're even asking for.
Yeah.
Like you have in these giant companies with huge expansive titles where they need a big pile of developers. Then you've got this boardroom who's asking for stuff they don't understand isn't possible.
Yeah.
And then you fire somebody who was really good at their job. So
Yeah.
I think for these big studios, unions are great. They're taking I mean, workers are protecting themselves, but I hope the industry does listen to. They almost have to. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason all these small indie games are doing so well right now and making good stuff. Like, you don't have a monopoly on this. You need to start listening to the developers and to the users.
Yeah. I mean,
Ubisoft, we're looking in your direction.
yeah, not just them though, but yeah, there's
They're a big one.
yeah,
they're a
they
big
are
one.
a big one, yeah. But it's like,
Yeah, I brought up Rob. He's like, "What story are you bringing tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, it's unionization in the gaming industry." He's like, oh, "Okay, so it's like not EA, right?"
yeah,
No, it's not.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can understand, like, especially with these bigger companies where you are more likely to just like, okay, we're done with this project. See ya, whatever team you were part of, bye. That, they need this kind of protection. I was just trying to make a comparison to like independent studios where, not to say that they shouldn't unionize, but there's less threat of being just randomly laid off.
But it'll
Depend-
raise the standard for them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I don't know. It's corporate going corporate. I hate how often I need to say that. But yeah. Ugh. All right, Theo, what'd you bring?
So for me, real quick, I love that Bethesda is doing this, and I think it is going to be hopefully a starting of a shining example for everyone else to do. And of course, I couldn't go an entire episode without mentioning Ubisoft in some way. So this is literally a case of, hey, you see what they're doing? Work on that instead of, Skull and Bones.
Yeah.
So Yeah, talk about the nice try game of the millennium. It's like, oh, we waited for this, right? So for me, and this is something I was actually supposed to go to this year and I didn't get a chance to, but the article I brought is for those who, have an interest in gaming tournaments, gaming cons. So there's one, and I've talked about it here before. It's called Evo, and it's basically from PlayStation, and the tournament itself is all basically fighting games. It's from PlayStation, sponsored by Chipotle, which is odd because you have to sit a long time for games, and then after Chipotle, you have to sit a long time on the toilet. So I mean, it gels up. But what makes it so interesting is when you look at like the 20,000 or so people who show up. Now they've measured kind of the economic impact just over the weekend at like $40 million. And yes, it's Vegas, but hey, anytime you bring money into a city, it's always a win-win. And this is actually the 18th one. So believe it or not, this has actually been around for a while. But I think why this particular year for Evo really stands out is because we talked about it that E3 is no more. It's probably not coming back in the near future, maybe let alone at all. And there's kind of this smattering of smaller gaming tournaments and conventions that have kind of, been in the atmosphere a bit, but not really locking it down. Like when you kind of point to, what's there and what isn't there. And Evo slowly but surely has kind of started making their way up into being in this position. And this year they had, I think they had one last year, but they started having them in Tokyo. They're looking at having them in other cities. That may happen within the next year or two. And the one that started all off in Vegas has now really picked up steam. And I got to watch. I didn't get to make it there, which I wish could have happened, but it didn't. But I sat in on Saturday nights tournaments with my son, eating chicken wings and homemade onion rings. And I mean, I love being in Vegas, but that was great too. But it is interesting to see now how, and it wasn't so much a power vacuum because we know there's, gaming events here, there, and everywhere. But I think the trick with Evo is that because it's really kind of focused with fighting games, but it's so huge, it's gotten big in a very short amount of time. It's now kind of turning into more of a premier con because the Las Vegas Convention Center, and they basically, from what I understand, took it over as a whole. That is not a small place.
Yeah.
I mean, that is literally like you could get lost between the time zones within the same building. It's massive. I went there for Amazing Con twice, and I loved it there. But I realized even with Amazing Con, they hadn't taken over all of the space. Well, Evo needs more space. Evo gets more space. So the article is great. For those who have never heard of it, I highly recommend reading it and seeing what it's kind of become. And like I said, they're looking up like more events in different cities as time goes on. I got to see some footage and stuff from the one in Tokyo. And of course, the one in Tokyo was insane because it's Tokyo. But one thing my son pointed out, because he went to last year's one, and he was like, yeah, the Tokyo one was great. He goes, but for so many people, Vegas is such a focal point to do stuff to begin with. And then you have this massive gaming con there that has now started rising up and really becoming on people's radar. So it was a great time. And I mean, my real love of games started between fighting games and trying to shoot the dog on Duck Hunt when he started laughing at me when I missed the ducks. So, I mean, the second I learned of Evo, like I was absolutely in. But it's a great article, and it really shows that now with E3 falling away and so many other kind of out there but not really locked down type of gaming events, this is kind of where big gaming events is going, at least when you look at like all the other ones, and Evo is kind of rising above the other ones little by little. So
weird thing in this article though, where it says there's more than 10,000 competitors, and then there's estimated like 20,000 people attending. Like, is it going to be only as many people as competitors? And your competitors, a lot of them coming with their families. Like, are they lowballing the attendance here?
No, I actually asked my son about that a little bit, like how his experience was the previous year. And they have, I mean, obviously the tournament itself is kind of the focus of the whole thing. But of course, like many cons and gaming events, they have like other stuff going around. And it is very much like, other gaming testing, announcements, podcasts, sit-ins, panels. Friday, because of Microsoft 364 issues, they had a ton of panels. Because there wasn't a lot they could really do, from what I understood, that day, because yeah, somebody at Microsoft, it was like Johnny in the first Airplane, where he pulls out the extension cord and shuts down the flight line, and it's like, just kidding. Yeah, that happened in Microsoft on Friday. No, there's a lot of people who attend, but not a lot of people who necessarily game. But most attendees as a whole is there for like the tournament. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised how big it's gotten. Like the article was saying, 10,000 competitors and everything. Cool.
yeah, it's hopefully. I mean, I say this every year for so many things. I hope to make it. And not just because it's Vegas, but it is, like I said, I mean, where it's kind of going. I mean, look, they have their own shoes now that they sell. They're a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
They become a thing.
Even in years past, I've never watched Evo. I've always had a passing fascination with fighting games beyond the fact that I'm terrible at all of them. And so I've heard of Evo, but I've never actually watched any of the competitions or anything. But it's a big deal.
Yeah, on just the Twitch stream, like they had the gaming stuff, and then they had like panels and demos, and I mean, for like one channel committed to one thing, they had like 20 or so other places you could click into and stream to. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Cool.
What about you, Sean? What you got?
All right. So multiple years ago, when the original Elden Ring came out, shortly afterwards, we started getting a bunch of articles about From Software fans using things that are not usually controllers to beat bosses in Elden Ring. Well, this past month or so, I forgot how long ago it was, fairly recently, they released a DLC for Elden Ring. And we are now starting to get some more of those articles, including the one I included where a VTuber named Larxa, I don't know how, Larxa, I don't know how the X is pronounced in there, beat all the bosses in the DLC using just words, without using a controller, anything like that. And actually in the video, they specifically have their hands shown to show that they are not using a keyboard or controller or anything like that, just using words. And it's just an example of just how bad it makes me feel at these games, because I'm still terrible at Elden Ring. Granted, I don't play often. And later on the same article, they show that someone who previously did this with Elden Ring, Miss Micah, Twitch streamer, beat Mesmer, which is, I'm assuming, one of the bosses. I do not have the DLC, but I have seen it. 3 streams, 8 hours, 136 tries. Finally beat Mesmer, the 2 times Mesmer in my Ultimate Challenge run, where I play 2 Elden Ring Shadows of Erdtree simultaneously, one with the dance pad on PC and one with controller on PS5. These people are just way too good at this game. It's unfair how some of these people are good at this game. But I'm always kind of fond of these random stories. I'm actually kind of looking forward to see if there is another, if Let Me Soloer comes back and starts helping people out again, or if that something like that happens again, because I thought that was a great story from the original Elden Ring. But yeah, we're starting to get back to the really weird controller systems beating Elden Ring DLC, and I'm amused.
I love it.
Yeah. Another tangent, we mentioned it last week. I just wanted to mention it again this week. The pre-patch for World of Warcraft is in like 2 days, and I'm kind of excited about it. Yeah, just wanted to mention that real quick. All right. before we get
Put
back
that
to
out there.
yeah, just as a reminder, I'm actually really excited about it because it includes the war bands and everything like that.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about that, and that happens on Tuesday. By the time I get home from work, that'll be ready to go. All right, before we get back to work, though, I wanted to mention our Patreon, patreon.com/PTGcast. If you like what you're hearing and you'd like to help us out a bit, you can go there and help with our paychecks each month. $1, $5, $10, it all helps, and we really do appreciate it. Patreon.com/PTGcast. With that, let's go ahead and get back to work.
Morning break is over. Morning break is over.
So this might be a little bit of a stretch when it comes to part-time gaming, but we're going to be talking about V-Rising, finishing our.
little.
So now there is. I will get into it. How it does have at least a little bit of part-time gaming to it, but we're going to be finishing off our month of These Games Bite with V-Rising. So we started with sharks, then went to zombies. Now we're finishing up with vampires. Developed and published
Only
by.
logical.
Yeah, I that's why I came up with a theme.
There you go.
See, really, so a little bit behind baseball. The way I come up with themes most often is I really want to talk about this game. What are 2 other games I can put with it and just make an overarching theme for it? And that's what I wanted to do. This was the game that I actually wanted to talk about the most this month. And I was just like, what can we come up with? We don't really want to do vampire. Bite. Let's go with that theme. Okay. Anyway. Developed and published by Stunlock Studios, is $39.99 on PlayStation or $34.99 on Windows via Steam. There, I believe, is supposed to be, there might be an Xbox version in development. I don't know, but that's currently the 2 that they're on, is PlayStation and Windows PC.
Yep.
So to kind of describe what this game looks like initially, it's an isometric survival action RPG. The best way I can kind of describe it is think vampire-based Diablo with base building. It kind of has that. It's not quite as complicated as not as many options, I think, as in the combat itself. But it still includes the base building, the survival aspects as well. And players control a newly awakened vampire that is trying to survive in this land and gain enough strength to ultimately defeat Dracula himself. So Dracula is like the biggest bad at the end of the game, but we'll get into everything. So what's kind of cool about this is you can actually start up a server. You can almost have it like as a mini MMO. You can actually have up to 60 players on a single server. And when you're making the server, like I'm just playing solo, so I'm the only one on the map, but you can have up to 60 players. You can have optional PvE or PvP enabled as well. So you can have it all be completely cooperative, just going around taking out the various bosses and stuff like that, building each other up. Or you can play PvP as well, which I have not done. I'm not the biggest fan of PvP, so I'm not going to probably do that. I'd probably just do PvE specific. But one thing I really like about this, and this kind of helps to address some of the part-time gamer aspect of this game. The initial default settings, there is a lot of grinding involved because you have to gather resources and all that kind of stuff, kind of the trappings of an open world survival game, in order to build your castle, to upgrade your equipment, stuff like that. But
Craft all your weapons, learn
Yeah.
how to craft them, collect
Yeah.
the stuff to craft them.
Yeah.
You don't find weapons or armor other than like a cape, right? Or no, you find armor.
Yeah, you can find
But weapons you have to make.
weapons and armor for the most part you do have to craft. And we'll get into a second why that is. You can find occasional capes, but they're usually just cosmetic differences. They're not really anything like that. You can find like gems and stuff like that to customize some of your abilities and stuff like that. But yeah, most of the stuff that is going to be crafted. So you got to go out and gather those materials and stuff like that, which is, it's again, one of the trappings of a open world survival game. But with the server settings, just about anything that has a number attached to it, including like percentages and everything, can be adjusted. So like on the server that I started for my solo game, I think I doubled all of the resources that you can gather. So, and you can go up to 5 times, I think. So if you really want to reduce that having to gather stuff, you can just max that out. And it's like, okay, you get 1 iron vein and that'll last you for like half the game type of situation. So that really does cut out a lot of the resource gathering and stuff like that if you really want to go that route. I mean, you can, with the server settings, you can change even what equipment level you start at. Oh, so if you want to just like, I just want to get to, face the bosses and, not have to worry about any of this, you can start with the latest level of gear and just go through the game that way. If, depending on how you want to play, there's all that to say is there is a lot of options for the server settings. It took me like 3 times of making the server before I was like, I think I got it where I want it to be. So it's not completely blowing out everything, but it's faster than default. But one of the reasons, like we were mentioning about having to craft gear and stuff like that, you don't get gear the same way you would in Diablo, where it just drops and you get it that way. You actually have to craft it for the most part. And the reason that is because of how the players gain strength. There are no levels. You don't gain experience from killing monsters or anything like that. The way that you gain strength is by increasing your gear level. So it's strictly on the gear and some buffs and like potions affect it as well. And the various things affect gear level. In addition to upgrading your gear for attack and defense and everything like that, you can also gain spells and passive buffs as well. Like I've gotten to the point in my game where I'm able to get passive buffs, which are actually pretty powerful. But that's the primary way that you gain strength in this game. So that kind of streamlines it a little bit, because then you don't have to go out and it's like, okay, I need to go out and kill like 400 wolves so I can gain a level so I can beat this next level of boss or whatever. It's like, okay, no, you just need to get the materials to make the armor and the weapons.
There's so much though. It's so complicated with like the stuff you have to craft your gear, but then there's the whole getting prisoners, basically getting minions and servants so that they're mining some stuff for you and you can go back to the castle and feed, and finding ones that are the right blood type because you get buffs from blood type, and then there's crafting potions you have to learn how to do to make potions, and there's different ones that work better against different bosses, so you can only progress so far unless you learn all the ins and outs of which spell tree you want to be in, which potions you want to use, and what blood type you want buffed at the time.
Yeah.
And all your equipment you pass down to, like when you have servants, when you recruit, dominate humans after you learn to do that, and there's different ways to do it. It's a lot. It's very... for what a part-time game to get in and out, if I only had, have a half an hour, I'm not going to feel like I accomplished much. I'm going to want a couple hours. And if you're on a solo server, like you're doing by yourself, you've got at least the advantage of, I like to jump into World of Warcraft when I was playing and like play with other people and stuff and be able to leave without, I don't know, my castle being ransacked, which you can't do in this game if you just leave it for a day.
Well,
you would have to play every day if you were sharing on a shared server.
Yeah, if you run a dedicated server that's always up, that is a concern. But there's ways of alleviating it. Like you can make it so, I'm pretty sure there's settings so that you just can't access other people's castles unless you like I said, you can have it set to a PvE server entirely, so that's not even an option, that they have to be allowed.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, like the normal lore of vampires, that they have to be allowed into your house.
There you go.
But this is one thing that I really do appreciate about this game is that, again, going back to those server settings and like those options, it allows you to tailor a lot of the aspects of this. I do agree that there is a lot to this game. One thing I do appreciate is it is. I personally think it is paced fairly well. It starts you off very simple, and it's like you're able to make a couple pieces of gear just without having to make a crafting bench. There is a quest system in the upper right hand corner that says, okay, accomplish this and it'll unlock this next part. You know, there is a progression.
Here it looks.
Yeah. But yeah, once you start getting to the end game, it's like there's a lot, but it's I think given to you slowly enough that you're figuring out one aspect of and the next. But like with the whole being a survival game and everything, like it has a couple different aspects. I kind of broke it down into like the base building part, the progression combat part and everything like that. So you have the base building. You start off being able to make basically just forts, like palisade walls, no roof or anything like that, just to protect your stuff. And then, but eventually you are able to make like full blown castles, like these really Gothic style castles. This is one of the parts of the game where that is probably the least part-time gamer centric, depending on how extravagant you want to get, how much you are invested in the cosmetics of the base of your castle, because you can go full blown, vampire interior design with your castles, and I've seen some that it's like that is amazing. I am not that person. It's like I'm pretty sure my castle doesn't even have any lights in it, because it's like, why? I'm a vampire. I don't need lights.
You just have your casket and your workbenches and your cells and your
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff you need to build just to
Yeah,
function. It's as a base.
yeah. But that's that's
I
the
like
thing
that
is
you can move it.
yes, that is actually a feature that I think they added either late in early access or like with very early in the 1.0 release. I think they added that feature where
Yeah, because starting over again after instead of having to run back and forth, and I guess
Yeah.
there's like a portal, but that seems a little janky still. Like you can only use it once. Like you would still have to. Yeah, you can build a portal in your castle.
yeah, I know I have a I think they're called waygates specifically.
Yeah, Waygate thing.
Yeah, but yeah, I have a waygate in my base. There's also a bunch of natural, quote unquote, naturally occurring waygates throughout the various regions of the world and everything. But yeah, the functional aspect of the castle is all of your crafting stations, all of your refining stations, all the various things that in order to craft and refine all your stuff is in your base. And it actually does benefit you to get to the castle phase and put them in specific rooms, because if you put them in a room that has a roof over it, then whatever recipes they use, the materials for them are reduced by 25%. So it just makes it more efficient when you're using those recipes. So like, for example, if for making wood or like refining wood, if it takes 4 pieces of wood normally, you put it into an enclosed room, it takes 3 pieces to make the same amount. So it just increases the efficiency. Later on, you can actually get different kinds of special flooring, where if every tile in that room is that kind of floor. So like, for example, like the workshop flooring for the sawmill and the grinder, it increases the production speed by 25% for the regular buildings, 250% for the advanced buildings. So it's just like eventually you can get like it actually says like advanced grinder, advanced blood press is one of them, and it drastically increases the efficiency of those buildings. So that's the functional use of your castles is increasing the efficiency of these different stations that you have to build to progress. But one thing that I think is very much more oriented towards part-time gaming is the V blood carriers. So I think this is a very interesting part of this game. It's tied very much into the progression of the game. Throughout the areas of this map are specific creatures and warriors and stuff like that were called V-blood carriers. They are like kind of the bosses of the region. And your goal is to kill them, suck their blood, absorb their knowledge, and that's how you unlock the recipes to advance throughout the story. Well, not, it's not really a story, but advance through the game is by killing these V-blood carriers. That's primarily like.
Well, the bosses drop like books that have that too, right?
They also drop books, but just by killing them in general, you gain knowledge from them.
Okay.
There are like you'll get like usually the final boss of it actually is broken up into acts. So like the final boss of the act will usually will allow you to make armor that will bring you up to the next act, to like bring you up your gear level to take on the next couple of bosses of the next act. And then as you're beating them, you can unlock recipes that give you like another step of armor up. And it's usually different sets. Like I really like the sets that give you weapon speed and stuff like that. That's just my personal preference. I like being able to attack faster. But there's ones that just increase your power. There's ones that increase your crit rate. There's one that increases your spell damage, stuff like that. So once you get into those versions, it really does open up the possibilities for like your whatever playstyle you want to play, which I think is really good. I like that. I like games that allow for you to play how you want to play. I can't really think of necessarily any way to play it wrong necessarily. I mean, there are certain moves that will always be more effective against certain bosses, and that's kind of the crux of the game is figuring out what kind of advantage you can gain on the certain bosses, because some of them are really difficult.
Yeah, I understand the end game gets really, really difficult and specific with what you need to use, which, I mean, I like that kind of puzzling out, challenges, but there's so many variables going on that it's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, it gets pretty intense. Like the boss that I'm stuck on right now. So I'm on, I think, halfway through Act 3 on my playthrough. And like I have the recipes to make the armor for this act. The problem is, in order to make the armor, I need to beat 2 other bosses in order to unlock the components to make those armor, specifically silk and pristine leather. The boss that drops the recipe for pristine leather is in an area called the Cursed Forest. And if you're not wearing a cloak that boss drops, as soon as you enter the area, you start getting a debuff that basically blacks out your entire map. Your mini map, your regular map, it just completely blocks it out. So you have no idea where you are. So you have to you can track V-blood carriers. It actually has like this kind of a cool effect where like almost you like smell the blood. So it kind of points a direction to where you're supposed to go. That's your only indicator of where this guy is. So you just kind of follow him. And the best part is he doesn't even fight you. He runs away and makes other things fight you. So it's like you're just chasing him around in this area that you can't see. And it's like
one gamer referring to like it's like having Google Maps.
Yeah.
Like you can plot where you're going. It'll give you the little path to it on your mini map.
Yeah, but you can't see the map itself. So it's like you can put a route down, but it doesn't show you the background. So it's and this is like once you start getting to like Act 3 is, I think, especially when things start getting a little bit crazy with the mechanics, it's like you really need to think out. It's like, okay, this is what this is the pattern of attacks that he does. These are the things I need to look out for. And it's like, okay, this boss, occasionally I need to watch for what direction he has his shield, so I know which way to attack him from. And it gets more intense once you get into the last act as well. And one thing, like, for the most part, there are ways of over leveling to make it easier against most of the bosses until you start getting to like Dracula. Dracula, I think, is one of the few bosses where there is absolutely no way to out level him. He's basically, even if you get every bit of gear level you can, I think he's still going to be like 3 levels higher than you. So but he's the final boss. He should be that way. He should be, very difficult to fight and have to rely a lot more on skill than just over leveling. But the boss fight, there's a lot of variety to the boss fights. So it makes you think about, it's like, okay, I need to make sure that I use my dodge for this move specifically because I can't avoid it any other way. I can, when he's doing this wind up, I can throw out this spell and get some damage in, stuff like that. And it's like, there's a bunch of different weapons that you can use, and each of the weapons have different abilities to them. Like, right now I'm kind of partial to the Great Sword, which has this really nice charge move that does a lot of damage. So that's the main progression, is fighting these V-Blood carriers. And that is the aspect of the game I think that is the most part-time gamer friendly, because you can just go, okay, I have the gear level, I can just go and try to fight this boss, try to take this boss down. I think that's a good kind of segment that you can hold on to. I will admit a lot of the other aspects are not all that part-time gamer friendly.
Yeah,
but
I don't get the feeling it's something you could finish or progress a long time with. Without...
There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
there's so much, like experimenting
Yes.
on your dominated humans to
yeah,
buff them more,
Yeah.
so they have the one with the good blood type to
that
take out.
irritates. That's okay. So we're talking about the blood as well. We've covered it a couple times. So this is the survival aspect of this game, is your blood pool. Because you're a vampire, you don't need food or water. You just need blood. Anyway,
Or ice cream.
that would be more convenient. But yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if your blood pool empties completely, you start taking damage. So you need to try to keep blood in your blood pool. There are several different kinds of blood you alluded to, and each of them have different bonuses. For a couple of examples, like the rogue blood has focuses a little bit more on crit damage, stuff like that. Brute, which is my personal favorite, focuses on regaining health in combat, like heals you on hit and stuff like that. There's also worker blood, which the one surviving human I have left in my prison is a 100% worker blood, which is like, cool. My chests are bursting with resources that I don't need. But and so like there's like,
So you need to go out and dominate different humans. See, this
Yeah.
is where the time to get what you need to be able to be more effective in different fights, like you've got to go do that grind.
yeah. So like I said, I will admit this is not necessarily the most part-time gamer friendly game that we've talked about.
I mean, you're gonna get your $34.99 out of it.
Oh yeah.
If
I mean,
you
I've
keep
already
playing,
put more
because-
than 100 hours in this game. Oh,
Yeah.
so
You'll get a good run for your money for it.
yeah.
But
So-
I don't have that kind of time to play that I would get
Yeah.
much enjoyment out of this. Like if I spent a couple hours every night, then sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I will admit
But I
that.
don't so much right now.
Yeah. But yeah, back to
And if I do, I'll hopefully get back to Azeroth.
yeah, that's going to be consuming a lot of my time too. I mean, pre-patch, yes, but once it actually is released, that's going to take a lot of my time. Oh, but yeah, so the different kinds of blood have different kinds of effects. You can dominate humans, send them back to a prison in your base, and that allows you to continually tap them for that kind of blood.
And you can stack, right?
No.
Okay. Why did
Blood
I
pools
think
are
stack?
specific. So, like if you have like worker
Oh
blood,
no, I'm thinking of the percentage because
Hmm.
the workers themselves, that's right, have a certain percentage of a type
Yeah.
of blood, and that percentage depends on how much gives a certain amount of benefit.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the rogue gives a better crit chance, and if it's like a higher percentage of their blood being rogue, then
yeah,
that's why you would give them the weird radioactive
Yeah, the
slime that
irradiated
exists in
gruel.
that game. right?
Which-
To try and you could end up with a mutant on a bad roll, and on a
Yeah.
good roll,
Yeah.
you get
So-
a better minion. And
So-
there's tech in this game that doesn't really fit the world really well.
Yeah,
So-
I mean it's vampires, so whatever, they can break the rules. But but it's it's gothic. There's like once you get into like some of the higher level well, like right about where I'm at, you get into like they have kind of like Tesla technology and stuff like that, that kind of gothic technology. But yeah, so so going back to the blood percentages, yes, you can have a higher percentage of blood quality, which increases the bonuses. It goes up to 100%. That's kind of your goal, is to try to find 100%. I found a 96% warrior. Oh, and got him my prison. And so there's an item you can get called, I believe, irradiated gruel, which you give to your prisoners, and it's supposed to increase their blood quality by 1 to 2%. But there's like a 1 in 3 chance instead that it will turn it into a raging mutant that is worth nothing. You just have to kill it. It just starts attacking you immediately. So I had
there.
yeah. Okay then. So
Moving on.
I had a 96% warrior, and first one I gave him turned him into a mutant. I was so pissed.
It's already high. That's
But I wanted the only other one I have is a worker. It's like yeah, it's 100%, but it's like I don't need that blood type. And it's like I've been trying to find like a high level brute for so long, and it's just, I will admit, this is one of the parts of the game that I don't like, is trying to find high quality blood types of the type you want. Like, I really want to find 100% brute, or like something close to, like the highest I've found recently has been like 70%. And it's like, give me something like the
sorry
90s.
you wasted that 90 something.
Yeah.
See, did you want
Give me
mutants? Because that's how
Zydrate,
you get
little
mutants.
But yeah, I mean,
Hydrate's bad news.
yeah. So that's the risk I take with it, but and the thing is, I haven't gotten to the highest level areas. Supposedly, once you get into the highest level areas, there's a higher chance of getting higher blood qualities. So there's still a chance to get it later on. I just want now. But yeah, so I will admit there, a lot of this is not very part-time gamer friendly. There are a couple things that you can do that are like maybe going after one specific boss in V Blood Carrier or something like that. But overall, I still think this is an enjoyable game. I've been having a lot of good times with it. I might tweak it. I think you can change the difficulty mid-game, and I might just do that just for the sake of, because I just want to kind of get through it at this point. It's still one of the games that's on my kind of list of shame where I've never completed it. I'll eventually, like, there's so many games now. Like I've discovered that at about 100 hours in a game is when I start to lose interest, because there's literally like dozens of games on the games I just have installed that are just like sitting at about 100 hours. It's like there are multiple of them where that's the case, and I think it's strange how consistent that is. But yeah, I want to try to actually get through some of these games. Like I still got to get back to Elden Ring and beat that one too. I've never finished that. Jeez, I haven't gotten Horizon Zero Dawn either. Dang it! There's so many games.
Doing?
Yeah, there's so many games I need to get back to. But anyway.
I'm glad I'm not big on completing games. I'd be in sorry shape.
Yeah. I mean, I'm usually not
I
either.
think I've actually completed one game ever.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain games that when I was like Mass Effect, like I was super completionist on that for a long time, but that was also before I was married and had 3 kids. And I could just no life it for, hours on end. But now, hence why I started the show Part-Time Gamers.
Hey, it's where the name comes from. Who knew?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we've covered, I think, just there's, like we were alluding, there's still a lot to this game.
Yes.
There's stuff that I haven't gotten to yet. There's a lot of different aspects to this game. You're definitely going to get your money's worth out of it. It might be, like I said, it's probably one of the less part-time gamer-friendly games we've talked about. But I think there's still a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Game, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, still really enjoying it. But actually I'll probably, after we're done recording the show, I gotta get my collect my stuff from what the workers collected while I was away. Which that's another aspect that we didn't get into. But I do think the game really paces well.
You can set your mining, farming, whatever, collecting crap to like a certain number of hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I usually do just 23 hour and just max it out because you get the most resources back from that. And
right, but it doesn't like double or triple incrementally. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can reduce it down so it works faster, but there's also more chance of them getting injured and stuff like that. So I just said,
there's a lot of really complicated stuff in there.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about, I'm realizing how complicated it can get. It's like just playing through the game, but that's one thing that, like I said, I think the pacing is very well. It allows you some time to get used to something before it adds more stuff to it, which I think is a good thing for most games. So I think the pacing is well done. But yeah, once you start getting, like, if you're jumping halfway into it, it's complex. It gets there. But anyway,
I watched a video that was like basically a primer that ran through everything you need to know to play this game. Each type of system, and it was over an hour long. So
yeah.
And that was just here's how this works, here are your choices here. Here's how this works, here's where this is. Here are your choices here. Here's the map. And then you can do this, here's this. It was just walking through everything you can do in this game to build up and build out. And like not even listing craft this, craft that. Just a basic primer, and it was well over an hour long.
Yeah.
So that was like I'm watching, I was like, I had to go take a break partway through just to even watch the kind of how to.
Yeah.
And
again, that's taking the
game.
game as a whole. But I can understand, when you're getting into the later aspects of it, it's like there's a lot of things to manage, a lot of systems.
I was like,
they
wow,
pile
this reminds me of when I was playing WoW. Like,
no.
Okay, here's where I gotta go to get this recipe, and then I gotta get these materials, and then I gotta plus go have Diablo style combat.
Yeah. All right. Still think it's a great game, but
Yep. Sure.
yeah, it's got
Looks
its things.
cool.
Yeah.
YouTube's now trying to sell me Castlevania for some reason. All right.
Well, because
Castlevania's
there's a Castlevania DLC for it. So
You might, if you like vampires,
in fact,
Castlevania's basic.
yeah,
No way, I'm already on that list.
I'm pretty sure Simon Belmont is actually one of the bosses you can face. He's an optional one, but he's like super high level. I've seen him like once. It'll show you usually like what gear level the target is if you're close to it. If it's over I think over 10 levels higher than you, though, it just shows a skull, and he's still a skull to me. So I just kind of avoid him. But yeah. All right.
Be a great show title.
What? Just kind of
Still
avoid
a
him?
skull to me.
Oh,
I just kind of avoid him.
Still a skull to me.
yeah. All right. Everyone, if you like what you've heard and like to help us out, a couple ways you can do that is you can give us a review over on Apple Podcast. You can follow my Twitch and or YouTube channels for our live recordings Sunday nights starting at 9:15 Eastern Time. Or you can become one of our patrons at patreon.com/ptgcast. It helps us out a lot. If you'd like to contact us, you can with our email, parttimegamers.cast@gmail.com. Or you can join our Discord channel and enjoy hilarity there. Got a couple people there. Really enjoy the conversations there. Everyone, thank you for listening. Next week, we're going to be getting into our game night, and I believe we have agreed on playing some Lethal Company. So there, I was trying to figure out another game, a multiplayer game that we could play that involves something biting us, and that has creatures that bite. So that's the closest I got.
Lethal Company. That's what I used to call my in-laws.
I'm sure that's not inaccurate.
Especially
yeah.
during Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Pass the potatoes. You suck.
Potatoes just coming you at Mach 4, hit you in the face.
As long
Anyway.
as there's gravy on them, that's fine.
Yeah, just open your mouth.
Yep.
But yeah, we're going to be doing some Lethal Company next week. I'm Sean. You can find this show and the rest of my work and links to my socials, including the Discord channel, my Twitch and YouTube channels, and the Apple Podcast listing using the link bit.ly/CI Productions. Amber, where can people find you around the internet?
Oh, the easiest thing to do is go to 9of12.com. That's NINEOF12.com.
And Theo, where can people find you? Preferably on the internet where it's safe for work.
Oof. Well then. So the not safe for work. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me on Rabbit in Red Radio. We were supposed to have an episode last week, but of course life gets in the way of having fun all the time. So we should have a new episode coming up Thursday. And for all those who need to know, Deadpool and Wolverine comes out Friday.
Really? Is that soon already?
Oh, yes. It was originally supposed to be like September 9th. And that was tentative. And then, of course, there was like, the actor strike and all that stuff. But I guess it's, tested so well and obviously anticipated. So they moved it up pretty drastically. Yep, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's just because my sense of time is completely screwed now. Like, wasn't last week like February?
No,
Feels like
last
it.
week it was like 100 degrees. So I will say no.
I don't know. Time is weird.
Well, here was 105, and then in Vegas it was 119.
Oh, jeez. That like
I've
that.
been in Kuwait for 133. So,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
been.
humidity here, I gotta tell you.
Yeah. Well, imagine working in a shop that doesn't have air conditioning that cuts giant sheets of metal with lasers. Yeah, when it's 90 degrees outside, it's about 120 inside. So, and yeah. I mean, that's why I don't bother taking a shower before I go to work, because it's like, it's going to be completely irrelevant within an hour. So it's like, why bother?
Y'all stank. Just drink Febreze and let it go through your pores.
Pretty much. All right. Anyways, until next time, we are the Part-Time Gamers clocking out.